Let's dive right into this explainer, because today we are unpacking something absolutely massive. We're gonna uncover how a single album managed to cross borders, leap over generations, and completely blur genres to become a literal global phenomenon. We're talking about Jungkook's solo debut, Golden. Now, we're definitely gonna look at the staggering scale of its success, but more importantly, we're diving into the science, the actual music theory and the cultural shifts that made it resonate with such a wildly diverse audience. Honestly, whether you're a lifelong K-pop fan or someone who has literally never heard a single track in the genre, the hidden mechanics behind this album's explosive success are just, well, they're absolutely fascinating. So let's get into it.
Okay, first off, the sheer scale of this launch is mind-blowing. 6.8 billion. That is the number of cumulative Spotify streams Golden racked up in just a matter of months. To put that into perspective, that sets a first and only record for an Asian solo artist's album, period. I mean, individual tracks like 7, Standing Next to You, and 3D each pulled in over 1 billion streams all on their own. So this wasn't just your standard successful album drop, it was a tidal wave. It was a level of listener engagement that completely redefined the global reach of a solo K-pop artist.
But it wasn't just about the sheer volume of fans streaming the music. What really stands out is the immediate, heavyweight, critical respect the project commanded. When the performance for Standing Next to You dropped, seasoned industry veterans immediately took notice. And the ultimate stamp of approval? Well, Diana Ross, yes, Grammy-winning, absolute music legend Diana Ross, was completely captivated. She actually said the sophisticated 1980s pop groove and the commanding stage presence reminded her of Michael Jackson. That kind of comparison? Yeah, that is not handed out lightly. It really signals a level of pure musicianship that goes way beyond your standard pop expectations.
And the launch itself? It was practically a global cultural takeover. The marketing team literally painted iconic landmarks around the world golden. Just picture looking up at the Empire State Building and seeing this massive, silky CGI gold banner unfurling from the very top. Or imagine being in the heart of New York's Times Square, where they announced a guerrilla concert with only 30 minutes notice, and yet thousands of people instantly flooded the streets, cheering. Add in these massive billboards dominating major cities from Jakarta to Tokyo to Seoul and New York, the sheer unavoidable visibility of this project made it an inescapable global event. All that hype, though, translated into something much harder to achieve: genuine longevity. This absolutely was not a flash in the pan. The album debuted at number 2 on the incredibly competitive Billboard 200, and then just stayed there for 25 weeks. Over in the UK, it spent 8 consecutive weeks in the official albums chart top 100, which is a first for a K-pop solo artist. Oh, and 4 concurrent songs in the Billboard top 10. The huge takeaway here is the staying power. Listeners weren't just checking the album out of curiosity on release day. They were living with it, putting it on repeat, and essentially making it the soundtrack to their daily lives for months.
But to truly understand why those billions of streams happened, we have to peel back the layers. We need to look past the marketing and the charts and look directly at the music theory. Specifically, we need to talk about the difference between a simple melodic step and a dramatic melodic leap. Okay, so every melody you've ever heard is just notes strung together, right? When a singer moves up or down to the very next adjacent note in a scale, that's called a step. It's safe. It acts like the glue holding a song together. But when a singer jumps over at least one note to hit a much higher or lower pitch, that's a leap. And leaps are incredibly attention-grabbing. The wider the gap, the more your human ear is literally forced to pay attention.
And here is the secret sauce. It's a stark mathematical contrast. Standard pop music usually relies heavily on those safe steps. Take a classic. Actually, think about the Beatles' Let It Be. It has a step-to-leap ratio of about 3-to-1 or 4-to-1. But Golden, it mathematically hacks our ears. The melodies on this project feature a highly unusual 1-to-1 ratio. In some spots, there are actually more leaps than steps. That is incredibly rare in songwriting, mostly because it takes a massive vocal range to even pull it off. What it does is create a melody that constantly doubles back on itself, shifting dynamically up and down. It forces your brain to stay hyper-engaged, giving you this intoxicating, unpredictable sound that you practically can't tune out. And the really cool thing is the result of that mathematical musical hack, it creates genuine, unexpected emotional resonance. Take this amazing anecdote from a 66-year-old professional composer. They actually noted being moved to tears by the music, saying they were totally charmed by the connection of the words, the melody, and the rhythm. When you combine that high-level vocal execution with those complex, leap-heavy melodies we just talked about, you catch the ear of lifelong music theorists. They instantly recognize the underlying craftsmanship.
But wait, it gets better. Because simultaneously, that exact same complex melody is completely intoxicating to kids. That same 66-year-old composer, they actually first heard the song because it was being belted out by 20 or 38-year-olds at a birthday party, complete with a giant purple dinosaur bringing the accompaniment. I mean, that perfectly proves that when an underlying structure is universally catchy, you do not need a degree in music theory to feel it. The leaps are so inherently engaging that little kids just instinctively want to sing along, completely unaware of the complex math that's making it all work. This phenomenon also completely shattered traditional demographic boundaries back in K-pop's home country. Historically, boy group soloists have very specific, heavily female fan bases. It's just how it usually goes. But the sophisticated groove and the sheer undeniable coolness of Golden brought in entirely new demographics. We saw a genuine influx of Korean male listeners jumping online, saying things like, "He's cool even for a guy to watch," or "This is the first time I've searched for a male idol stage." It transcended the usual boundaries, surprising everyone by converting both longtime superfans and entirely new male listeners all at once. Now, of course, whenever you have an explosion of popularity this massive, it's going to spark some debate, right? On one side, some critical listeners have argued that the production is a bit overpolished. They point to the heavy use of pitch correction and compression, feeling like it was almost mathematically engineered in a lab to cater to the widest possible audience. But on the flip side, the casual, everyday listeners view that exact same high production value as a huge win. They highlight that the English-heavy lyrics and that sweeping, movie soundtrack feeling completely strip away any perceived barriers, providing a super accessible, uplifting pop anthem that just feels good to listen to. Ultimately, the real reason this project achieved those 6.8 billion streams is because it acted as the perfect, friction-free bridge. By using so much English, it instantly wiped away language barriers for Western audiences. The songs literally evoke that awesome feeling of an uplifting climax in a blockbuster movie. It beautifully balances top-tier musicianship, like those dramatic, gravity-defying melodic leaps, with incredibly easy listening. And maybe most importantly, it allowed everyday locals to just enjoy a meticulously crafted pop song without feeling like they had to adopt isolating stan labels. It just naturally became a favorite song on their playlist. So, I want to leave you with this thought to ponder as we wrap up today's explainer. We've looked at the staggering streaming data. We've broken down that highly unusual melodic structure that quite literally forces our brains to pay attention. And we've seen how this music united professional composers, 8-year-olds at a birthday party, and millions of casual global listeners. When the boundary between a meticulously engineered pop hook and mathematical ear hacking completely vanishes to create something so universally loved, where does global music go from here? It's an absolutely fascinating question, and one I think the music industry is going to be trying to answer for years to come.